Looks like your credits went through just fine. Fantastic. Now, where was I? Right. You were asking about the mercs. Nox Solaris. Well, friend, you have come to the right man. Been their humble street pharmacist since just after they got together. Some of my best clients, by the way. But more importantly for you, they're the best there is at what they do. I mean, what a group! Leader's a bona fide Atlantean voyager. That's right, Atlantean. Then there's the spooky techno-wizard cyborg genius. Finally, a mystic smithy giant. 12 feet tall if he's an inch. Not to mention the mountain of a spirit bear he calls brother. Now, I can get word to him if you're looking to hire Mister. No problem there. Just let old Blitz give you 2 tiny tips for your health. First, don't get on their bad side. Make sure you have payment ready to go, and don't try to pull any bullshit, or you're worse than dead. And second, don't piss off that fucking bear.
Finally, there you are. The Nexus had just enough power to fuel one more try. The last step. The Megaverse knows my Atlantean people as heroes, but a shadow of chaos has taken root in me. They try to bind it. They try to bury it. But when I finally called out to it, to you, from across the void, you answered, I am ready.
Welcome, traveler, to the Black Shore.
Your shame reaches a mother's heart, even beyond the veil, little brother. My sister Sora mocked her as the darkness closed in. She giggled and synthesized honey-sweet tones while leaning close to softly breathe her venom into my ear. And so, with judgment passed and tourniquets in place, my family commanded the automated surgical bots to neatly slice both arms and legs from my torso. The harsh lights overhead swam and dimmed before my eyes, as flesh and bone were replaced with cold, unfeeling metal to cripple my connection to the arcane. Now, my family lies far behind my path, and I follow a new teacher as she whispers from the darkness ahead. Her voice haunts me with promises of forbidden knowledge and wonders precious beyond compare. Each step brings me closer to my prize, closer to my revenge, closer to her.
Nah, brother. My eyes read the stars as keenly as your ancient ones do. Et is almost here. E is almost and with him, comes the end for our proud and noble Vana countryman, along with the rest of the souls on this world. As his foul shadow falls upon us all, we alone stand for those who cannot. Ugh. So rise, son of Aku. Our ancestors smile upon us this night as they call us home. Come and let us earn our place amongst the stars above.
Okay, everything is 5x5. We're ready to go. Okay, and today we have got Kilo, Bear, and Dex playing Ren, Ymir, and Akama, respectively. They have already moved through their initial starting point location through a rift, and they have arrived in a kind of port-like city that appears to be surrounded by water. Let's see. So far, they've already had some encounters with the rest of the group that came through the portal with them. They're not entirely sure who was already here and who exactly was in the group, but they're kind of interacting right now and just kind of making first contact with some of these individuals. They've been approached by different individuals, and they almost had a little dust up already. But luckily, they were able to avoid any conflict within the first few minutes of landing. Our heroes are here to try and find employment with a dimensional merc organization, each having their own reasons for trying to do so. This location has been presented as a kind of rally point where potential mercs can come and actually kind of apply for one of these positions that they've been seeking. And essentially, where they're located right now is almost like a big job recruitment fair. But they have no idea what it is they're actually supposed to be doing here, or what the next steps are. So with that, this is where we pick up with today's session. All right, let's just go over where each of you were. Bear, I believe you were still conversing with Fleck. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
I had just, Ymir had just picked up a data recording very gingerly that Fleck
That's correct.
handed him and tucked it away for safekeeping, not really understanding what was on this mysterious electronic scroll, as Ymir would call it. But he received this, and he knows of Fleck and him had their conversation, and he was turning to leave with the rest of his Tengu entourage.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so he's turning to leave. Kilo, you had, I believe you had tried to send your drone up when you had been approached by her, and she tried to lead you back into the crowd a little bit, over towards the Mad Monk, who she said she wanted to introduce you to, that he wanted to speak to you.
As a safety precaution, I was gonna have the my drone kind of act as a security cam on me to let my other guys know everything was okay, but that quickly went south.
Okay. And so you've gone over and you're actually in front of the Mad Monk right now, correct?
She took me in to see him, and he had introduced himself, and that's as far as we got there.
Excellent.
I never got her name. I'm not sure if she ever gave it. I didn't have anything for that. And I know he's just called the Mad Monk so far, too.
Okay. And Dex, Akama... Akama was having
by some crazy fucking
a
dude.
conversation with this guy. He
He
had
ain't even talking. He's just staring at me.
he had kind of started stumbling up to you, but he was like kind of chewing on his lip and almost like gibbering a little bit, like maybe he doesn't quite command the power of speech in a robust sense, and he just has a lot of trouble communicating. Anyway, whatever the case may be, he doesn't seem very effective at communication, but he does seem very interested in you, and he's approaching slowly with ponderous steps. He looks almost like a child, the way he's kind of like waddling over, unsure of his own dimensions and footing and so forth. So let's see. Okay, and we're going to pick up right there. So as Akama is looking over at this strange individual coming over towards him, you guys, let's see, you guys are each kind of involved in your own little activities right now, except Bear. As you put that little chip away, you're looking up and you're actually seeing what's happening with your companions. You're able to see, because of your height, you're able to clearly see right where Ren is, through the crowd, and you're keeping an eye on him speaking to this monk. You're also clearly able to see this huge individual kind of waddling up to Akama. So with that, Akama now sees coming through the crowd from his right, he sees the individual that had been on the other side of the portal when it closed. This is the what you had discerned was a shifter that had originally appeared to open the portal from the other side. You guys did see the portal close. You did not see how he showed up on this side, however. He comes striding through the crowd, even though he's pretty short. He's like 5 foot even. He comes striding through the crowd with just a huge head full of steam and confidence. He's pushing people aside brusquely and kind of hurling under his breath curses at people that don't move quickly enough. Obviously, he's very confident in his status around here. And as he gets through most of these mercs that kind of look at this little diminutive, kind of dwarfish character, almost with a little bit of humor and surprise, as he kind of is trying to muscle people aside that are huge cyborgs and, 8 foot, 9 foot tall, just bristling with muscle behemoths. He emerges and he quickly reaches out and smacks the large brutish character right across the face. I mean, hard enough to turn this guy's head, and a thin trickle of yellowish bile, like what you would assume is blood, starts kind of dribbling from one corner of his mouth. He kind of hangs his head low and puts one hand, his free hand, up over his face and begins to kind of openly sob. Um, with this, the shifter turns back to you, Akama, and he kind of glares at you. He kind of squints his eyes and just openly kind of hostile, in a hostile way. He just obviously is pretty pissed off that this guy was even attempting to talk to you. And at this, he turns right back around and reaches up and grabs the collar of this guy's armor and starts yanking him away back into the crowd. Are you doing anything? Okay, so you just watch? Okay.
Yeah, let's watch.
So as you're watching this, you hear, it sounds like a horn coming from somewhere behind you. As you look around the scene, definitely there's a few small roads and paths set up, but for the most part, you're all noticing that whatever this kind of city, this fortress is up on the hill, it doesn't really seem like you guys are supposed to be going there. In fact, you notice that there's lots of weapon systems set up, as well as these flying drones, that it's almost like you guys have been brought to just a fortified, secure staging area, and you're going to be taking off from here. Because what you're noticing is most of the vehicles, most of the turrets, most of the weapon systems, they're all pointing from the populated center towards you, and you're not seeing a whole lot of like open path or, direct route to go in that direction at all. So each of you is definitely getting the impression that you're not exactly welcome within the city. But as you're hearing this horn, Akama, you realize that there is a vehicle moving through the crowd coming up, and within just a few seconds you should have a clear view of it. You notice that a lot of the mercs are starting to kind of scatter and get out of the way of whatever kind of vehicle is approaching. Let's see.
Can I tell what it is? Like, where's it from? Who's in charge of it?
It actually it's starting to show up through the crowd, but we're going to come right back to that. Ren is standing before the Mad Monk, and in that creepy voice, but it sounds strangely like it may have changed. You're not sure exactly why, but might be a little bit different than it was before. But he speaks to you, and in, let me see, you've got, okay, so in English, he says, I see that by your garb and trappings you are a techno-wizard. Oh, wait a second. Here we go. I see that by your garb and trappings you are a techno-wizard. I would have a brief word with you about your desire for employment. Okay, with this, he kind of raises one cybernetic eyebrow, allowing the servos to kind of dilate the glowing dual blue luminescence coming out of his kind of dual eye. And as he does so, you can tell that he's kind of waiting for a response he just wants to measure how you're going to take that in. Do you want to say anything? Is there anything that you want to do?
I will
just kind of look. I'm looking pretty just. I'm definitely outside of my element here. So.
Okay, and almost to punctuate this point,
a
huge stone-skinned, giant-like creature with 4 arms kind of brushes up against you from behind, causing your mortal frame to literally stagger forward a foot or two. You kind of catch yourself, and as you straighten yourself, you once again try and kind of gather yourself up to make your point. Go ahead and continue.
I thought last session, I had told him that I was outside of my element, and I am very new to this.
Okay.
I'm not sure what I'm looking for. I've kind of joined this to kind of, and partially, this is him speaking now. I sort of came here in some regards just to get away, in others to seek knowledge, yet the knowledge I seek, I'm not 100% sure of what that is yet.
I understand. This path that you embark upon offers many rewards, along with many challenges. There are opportunities to join like-minded individuals and organizations, as well as opportunities to join those whom your relationships with you would most earnestly regret in the future. One's soul is a commodity that should be traded ever so carefully. I would offer this bit of advice. Out of all of the organizations that you will come across, understand that none are good and none are wholly evil. All play a part in the tapestry that is being woven and the story that is being told for the future of this land and all of the metaverse. I see in you great potential.
And at this, he gazes down at your prosthetic limbs, and you can hear his eye refocusing. You also go ahead and roll a perception check. You're trying to get a 12 or higher.
That was under. Crap. Is it the active one? Yeah, perception. Okay. I have not rolled good on this stat yet.
Hey, all right. So, you notice that as his cybernetic eyes begin scanning your prosthetic limbs, you notice a subtle shift in the spectrum of light that seems to be shining from his eye. And as that spectrum changes, you realize that he's actually doing a multispectral scan, which is extremely advanced for like human-sized cybernetics. He's doing a full multispectral scan.
I recognize this as being cybernetics that are scanning me, not him using a spell or something.
Absolutely. And you would even guess that these have to be alien in origin, because most human cybernetics that you've witnessed are not capable of doing something that elaborate.
I've already witnessed him use magic as well by seeing all these cybernetics on him when I first met him.
Yes, correct. So this does kind of confirm, he is definitely composed of both. Now, as he's scanning your prosthetics, he concludes after just a brief pause and looks back up at you, and he says,
I believe what you're searching for can easily be found through multiple paths. I would hope that whatever group you decide to join would reflect the desire of you and your companions to be a force for good instead of evil in the metaverse.
And at this,
I've been one that really followed paths. I've always kind of set my own way.
okay, at this he kind of like just bows his head slightly, and when he raises his head back up, he seems to just gaze at you for a moment and just kind of stare intently, almost like he's trying to make an important decision. Okay, Bear, you're seeing that conversation take place, and as you look over, you also see the crowd parting, and you're able to see the vehicle actually breaking through. Akama also sees the vehicle coming through as people are starting to anticipate it coming and are getting out of the way in a straight line in front of it. As you guys look up, you guys see a pretty ornate and what appears to be a fairly armored, multi-wheeled automobile come cruising up the road. You guys see that there's other, foot traffic, but you also notice that some of the people that appear to be walking close to this vehicle are almost like a
League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
it almost looks like it's got its own like little like foot patrol that's escorting it, a little foot escort. And as you see this thing slowly start pulling up, you notice that within the escort, some look like pretty high-tech troops. Ones that catch your eye right away are some pretty heavily armored, high-tech, almost like shock troops. You guys are also noticing that there's probably a dozen of these more slender, but very capable-looking bots that obviously are, intended for like guard purposes for combat. You would guess that each one of them is a pretty capable fighter, but the one that really draws your eye is bringing up the rear, and it's actually causing the ground to have vibration. It's actually causing a slight shake in the ground every time its feet fall on the solid stone beneath it, and this thing is bringing up the rear. You would guess that it's probably about 20 feet tall. It looks pretty fucking stout. Definitely a mega damage supernatural creature. Its eyes are glowing, and there is a thin trail of smoke coming up off of its flesh. You notice that it seems to be gazing around the same way a lion would gaze around walking through a pack of like sleeping gazelle. It's singularly unafraid in an environment where even among all of these, hardened warriors, everybody's on edge right now. This thing is walking around like it would just as soon pick somebody up, bite them in half, and then start rampaging through and kill every living thing on this, in this area, as it would just as soon do that as just have a nice snack by the riverside. It just absolutely seems like this thing could go fucking bananas at the drop of a dime, and that it's capable enough to literally tear a medium-sized city apart if it really wanted to.
So it's like Honey Badger doesn't give a fuck?
Yeah, and it most of the things around you guys are definitely giving off that sense of a little bit of tension, being on edge. If somebody were to bang a pot behind them, they might fucking draw their weapon and spin around in a panic kind of thing. But this thing is very, very comfortable. It looks over at Ymir, and as its eyes lock with yours, Ymir, it says extremely calmly,
"Welcome, little one."
Now, it says this in your native Gigantes speak. It speaks this language with, there's actually a kind of royal version of it that is used by most of the kind of elder or ruling class of the more primitive and savage races that speak Gigantes. And this is a dialect that you recognize as being one spoken by what are known as particularly demonic members of what's considered the giant races. As it does this, it sends a horrific recollection through your mind of a savage battle you had on a mountainside, trying to rescue some bears that had been captured by a local demon priest. And his servants, although nothing like this creature, had the same kind of air about them. And his stink from this distance reminds you of their foul, offensive odor. Something about him right away definitely not only puts you on edge, but makes you start feeling hostility right away. Wotek looks over at this creature and instinctively takes a position to the right of you, and leans his head low and starts emitting just a low kind of bubbling growl. All right. Okay, now, Akama, you're actually standing closest to where the vehicle has now stopped. And as it does so, you can tell that there's some kind of like mechanical process happening that's allowing the passengers to disembark. Doesn't sound like this thing just lets you open a door. It sounds like there's almost like a vault door that has to be disengaged so that it can open up. As that's happening, you notice two of these units step up in front of the vehicle. One of them is kind of close to your location. Each one holds out a massive armored gauntlet out in front of them, commanding everybody to stand back from that position. He's pretty close to you. You're probably about 5 feet away from where he's standing. So as he reaches his arm out, his hand is almost in your chest. And as this unit does this, you hear over their comms, the loudspeaker comes a crackling voice. All individuals are to retreat 20 paces. Failure to do so will result in your termination. All right.
Go ahead and take a step back 20
All right.
paces.
All right, you go ahead and start stepping back. You haven't really counted paces backwards very often, but you feel like you do a pretty good job, and he seems to relax.
Question.
Yeah.
We are in like a camp type atmosphere, right? Like we're like in a like kind of a makeshift city kind of made up, or is it are we actually in a city?
You guys are basically where you're standing. You're seeing that background image from where you're standing, but you're not in, there's no like buildings or anything like that around where you are. There's that place in the distance that, you know, like I said, there's a few little routes and paths and shit, but for the most part, it definitely seems like you're not welcome there.
So we're in the outskirts.
Yes. Now, behind where, you know, from this perspective, directly behind you, you can see lots more of the rock outcroppings and mist and, you know, some light filtering in from overhead. But for the most part, you can't really see what's off in the distance in any direction. Okay. So you step back, Dex, and as you do, the posture definitely seems to relax from the guardsman. is there anything you're wanting to do?
I would basically gaze at the door area where whoever that's in the vehicle might come out. I want to get a good look at them whenever they do.
Okay. All right, excellent. Okay, Ren. What is Ren doing right now?
I'm still with the Mad Monk, correct?
Yes. And as you're standing there, like I said, she is still right next to you. And
Are we out in the open? Are we in the tent? Are we in a confined space? Like I'm.
nope, you guys are out in the open.
Okay.
Grab her butt.
And again, there's dozens and dozens of mercs of all different descriptions all around you guys.
I'll look at the Mad Monk and I'll say, how is it that you can control magic with so many enhancements done to you?
Okay, and at this, he just looks at you and smiles and cocks his head to the side just a little bit. Obviously not wanting to answer, but giving you the impression that that is a conversation he would be willing to have at some point. With this, he gazes over to his female companion as this individual steps up on her far side from the Mad Monk. As he steps up, you notice that he moves with the fluid kind of grace of not just a trained warrior, but almost like an acrobat or a gymnast. To say that he looks capable physically is an understatement, because this individual almost looks like almost anything you could think of, he could probably do physically that a human can do. And as he kind of takes in his surroundings, you notice that he's got some pretty elaborate and intricate tattoos that that Ren knows are actual like glyphs and magical markings. Now, that's not to say that they give some kind of power, but they're not, they're not just some like alphabet characters from some language. Whoever he is, he's had a real mystic do some kind of tattoo work. And you're also noticing those same kinds of symbols, sigils, and glyphs on his armor as well. So whoever he is, you don't really assume right off the bat that he has like magical aptitude, but he runs in those circles. And whatever that entails, you would guess that he's probably either got some techno-wizard items or access to some kind of abilities beyond just the physical limitations of a human. As he steps up, the Mad Monk nods over to his female companion, and in, let's see, in that same voice he says,
Are the preparations complete? Ready? Can you hear me?
okay, with this, you kind of glance over and you notice that she seems extremely distracted. And as soon as he says her name, her head whips back around to him. And she says to him,
"Oh, apologies, Master. I have seen the ghost. Please, all the preparations are ready. We should leave as soon as you are ready to travel."
okay, with this, he nods very somberly and he turns back to you, Ren, and he says,
If you would be interested in knowing more about the knowledge that I would share, perhaps you should accompany her. He can give you instructions on where we may meet for a more robust conversation. If this interests you, let her know within the next 10 minutes, and she will give you further details. If not, know this. All paths lead to Counterfall. In your journeys, make sure that eventually you head there. It will be very easy to find, and directions, though often scant of detail, are usually fairly reliable around these parts.
okay, with this, he turns briskly and begins walking away. The other two are staying in place. Is there anything you want to do right now?
First clarify. So the person that appeared with the tattoos, is that who she was referring to when she said she thought she saw a ghost?
No.
Okay. So
You definitely did not catch who she was looking at or what she saw, though.
I thought it was in reference to that person.
No.
Okay. So the madman walked away, and I will turn to Harmony. I apologize for not asking your name earlier. Thank you for your assistance thus far, Harmony. And then I'll look at the other person who arrived.
Okay. She just nods at you. As you look over at him, he's not even looking at you. He's staring around the crowd almost like he's assessing every little threat and coming up with contingency plans for anything that could possibly happen.
Are they side by side? Are they?
Yeah,
Like,
they're right next to each other. You guys, now you're seeing that you all see that things are thinning out just a little bit. You see that there's a little more space in between each person, and while there was already 5-6 feet around each person, now there's probably 10. People are starting to thin out and use a lot more of the surrounding area. And now that people have gotten out of the way of the vehicle, everything's opened up a little bit. Harmony looks at you, and she says,
If you would like to discuss with your companions which option you would like to take, I will be here for the next 10 minutes.
And that's all she says, and just kind of looks at you.
And to clarify, so I have to decide to take guidance from her for in the next 10 minutes? Is that what?
She's basically, they offered to kind of lead you guys somewhere where you and the Mad Monk could talk a little more and actually discuss, whatever you would like to discuss.
Does my character understand that is this pulling us away from our group's task at hand, or is it something that I understand that could be fit in? Like,
I mean, so basically your character is seeing that this guy has something that you are definitely very, very interested in personally, and you don't really have a mission or anything right now. You guys are just looking to hook up with a dimensional merc band. So it's kind of up in the air. So anyway, is there anything you're wanting to say right now or do right at this moment?
I'll just tell her, since he's not giving two shits about me being here, I will be back as soon as possible. I will discuss and give you an answer either way.
Okay, and at this she just nods very somberly. She's extremely calm, and you get the feeling she might still be a little bit shaken from whatever it was she saw that upset her. And she turns kind of directly towards her companion, and he turns to her and begins to kind of murmur something as you walk off.
Can I try to possibly listen in as I'm walking?
Yeah, roll a perception check. We're going to say a 10 or above. Do you have a perception bonus? I don't remember.
Wait, why did it roll twice?
I don't know.
Probably just loaded.
I do have a bonus. It gave me a 9 and then a 20, but I'm only seeing the 7 on the screen, which is the +2 to 9. But apparently it says 22.
Oh, that's that. That must be the second roll. I'll tell you what. Just go ahead and roll one more perception check. It skipped the first one, I think,
Yeah, just it was like maybe like a.
but then it still popped up. So
Nice.
excellent.
Aha.
Okay, so
Hell yeah.
so you catch him saying the word pilgrim, and then you catch him saying containment pod. The rest of it is pretty kind of jumbled up, but you do hear him say Sinner's Cove as well. Okay? And let's see.
Sinner's Coast.
What's that?
Sinner's Coast.
Sinner's Cove.
Cove. Sorry. I didn't hear him say like sweetheart, baby, or boo. So you're saying there's a chance?
Yeah, right. Oh shit. All right. So as you start fading back towards your companions and you catch those last little words, you
I definitely
turn.
have eyes out right away for them as soon as I start walking back because I've been gone, and knowing that when I left they were concerned about what I was doing, but also all of us just being in this new scenario, I want to try to make eyes on them right away and get a read on to make sure they're okay, as opposed to just casually walking back.
Okay. As you're heading back, you right away are able to see them now that things have spread out quite a bit and everybody looks completely fine. You do notice that they're both looking over at the vehicle that has appeared, along with the giant gorilla-like creature and all of the guards.
Neither of these I noticed until now, right? I was probably pretty rapid.
Pretty much. You had noticed some of the commotion and stuff, but
not focused on it.
hadn't taken a really good look. All three of you now are also noticing around the perimeter of your group, there are a bunch of these units standing around, like basically guarding you guys, as well as a bunch of, you would say there's at least 24 of those units I just showed, and probably altogether now a couple dozen of these units as well. So there's
That last guy had a Google arm and an Apple iPad.
right. Hey man, I gotta pay for this broadcast somehow. Come on. So you guys are seeing that there's definitely quite a few troops around. There's a lot of security if you include what's, in the background. And you definitely feel like it probably wouldn't be a good idea to start any bullshit with anybody right here. Probably be pretty needless.
Idea of why these guys are here, because we've got a bunch of tough people coming in here with probably big attitudes, and is that kind of like they're kind of policing?
Exactly. You feel like the whole purpose of the way they've brought everyone together like this in this area with this kind of guard is exactly just to let people know, look, you're not even coming into this fucking city. Everybody just hang tight for a few minutes and then we're going to cut you loose and you can go do whatever you're going to fucking do. But you are all getting the impression that you're about to actually get some kind of instruction, because as the kind of vault-like door of that vehicle is starting to open, you can hear a crackling, almost like a PA system firing up, which is kind of funny because with all the super high-tech shit around here that you're seeing, it's an interesting contrast. There's still an old, like, analog kind of fucking loudspeaker at play. All right, now, let's see. You guys...
Ymir wishes to respond to the gorilla demon.
Okay, what do you want to say?
hearing what the gorilla, that monstrous entity, said to me in Gigantes, and I can hear that it's the royal dialect of Gigantes, but Ymir is unafraid, unintimidated. He looks directly up, craning his neck, which is unusual for him, but he cranes his neck up, looks the beast directly in his orb like yellow eyes, and says, "If you seek to intimidate me, demon, find someone else. Your stink offends my brother and I. When we meet again, we shall see. Your presence does not frighten me. Your kind does not scare me. I look forward to facing you." And he kind of snarls and smiles at him because, and tenses up. But Ymir is, he's posturing, but he's also letting him know he's completely unintimidated. This beast is trying to basically stun him with his size, and he's letting him know that he does not feel fear even in the face of that monster.
Okay. All right. As you do this, you see its eyes get pretty fucking large and wide. And you can tell that it can't believe that you're speaking to it like this. And right away it barks back.
You would speak to me? Me, a stench? Let me show you, little puppet.
Now with this, the creature reaches back with its right hand and shits a large bloody stool the size of several large cannonballs into its fucking hand. As it does so, you see that the blood is the color of like ichor. It's almost like a brownish, just sloppy, slimy kind of yellow. But it apparently is extremely caustic because everywhere that the liquid portion of it is dripping on the ground, huge wafts of smoke and steam are boiling up, and you can see the stone itself being eaten away. Now, as it pulls its hand forward, you see a huge, demonic, sinister grin literally expand its jaws to the point of impossibility. The smile almost seems to wrap halfway around its fucking face. And with this, it starts taking some plodding steps forward towards you. Okay? Wotek immediately fucking gets down on its haunches and gets ready to go. He lets out an actual growl instead of just a grumble. And you see that the rest of the guards, all of the security units, are all starting to step out of the way. They're all getting out of the way between the creature and you, Ymir, and directly between the creature and you is Akama is standing. Ren, you're still about 10 feet. You're standing about 10 feet off to the side, still kind of walking back and approaching. Okay, so as all of this is happening, let's go ahead and roll a 20-sided die, everybody, for initiative. Actually, let's see. Let me ask each one of you. What do you, Ymir? What do you want to be doing before we do initiative?
Well, all Ymir does is smile at him because he's, he shows no fear, absolutely no fear, even at what the monster does. He is taken back a little bit in his psyche with seeing the causticness of the let's just say leavings of this gorilla and the sort of destruction of nature it causes, and that flares him up. But he's just um let's say he's ready for combat. He hasn't drawn his weapon per se, but he's still got his hand on his hammer. His hammer is still resting behind his shoulder from the previous encounter that he had. And the whole time that he was talking to Fleck, he still had his hand on his hammer resting. So he just grips his hammer tightly, the handle of his hammer, and he's ready for anything.
Okay. All right, Nakama, what's Akama doing?
I'm gonna take a wraparound. I'm gonna walk at least to like maybe 5 feet to the side of Mimir
Okay.
instead of being in the middle, because that's fun.
All right, so you quickly backpedal and kind of pivot to where you're standing next to Ymir, off to. Do you want to be standing? He's basically, he uses his hammer in his left hand. Remember, he's 12 feet tall, so there's going to be
right of his bear.
Okay, excellent. So you're over 5 feet to the right of Wotek. So you guys are kind of in a line, and like I said, Ren, you're approaching. You're about 10 feet away from them. What do you want to be doing?
I'm going to put my 2 fingers in my mouth and give a loud whistle, reach into my bag and try to find maybe a rag that I've used to work with, the closest thing to white I can find, probably covered in grease, but still, and hold it up and yell, "This is not what we came here for. Please, please, let us keep on the task. Have you not noticed all the armed men around with guns?" And then
Okay, at this all right, at this, the large creature just says,
The little cricket chirps! The little cricket chirps!
he points a long crooked finger at you where shit is dripping through, all kinds of sauce and shit is dripping down on the ground. He's completely oblivious to this, and a large blob of it falls down on the shoulder guard of one of those larger troops and literally begins to sizzle through the thing's shoulder, cutting at least halfway through within just a couple of seconds. This thing doesn't even move. It stands perfectly still, doesn't make a sound. As the creature is laughing maniacally, you hear a loud, crisp, authoritative voice snap out across the crowd, and as it does so, nearly every head in the place whips over to view the speaker. Standing before you, just outside of the vehicle, holding a strange brass horseshoe-like device with lots of little, wiring and cogs and bolts and strange-looking attachments. He's holding this strange device up to his throat, and as he does so, you're hearing his voice being projected over the loudspeakers of the vehicle. As you look over, you see this strange, simple, rather unassuming looking man. He has a coin of unknown origin that glints brightly and almost hypnotically as he flicks it up in the air, repeatedly flipping it over and over again with his thumb, catching it cleanly in his palm, and then repeating the procedure. As he's doing this, you guys all notice one very, very distinct other detail about this individual. The strange, macabre, realistic noose that he appears to be wearing similarly to a necktie. Upon further inspection, however, you notice that his neck is deeply bruised and gouged in a perfect pattern, showing that this individual was indeed hung by this rope. You have no idea how he's standing before you, seemingly unaffected, or why anyone who could survive something like this would keep the noose around their neck. The noose has been ripped off, not shorn cleanly, and both pieces that had been severed trail small tendrils of loose, unwound rope. His suit is rather shabby for the stature of the man within. He seems to have a really kind of commanding and powerful presence, but it appears that the suit that he's wearing literally must be decades old. Although it was fine in its youth, it shows years and years of ill repair and misuse, and obviously has seen him through a lot of physical encounters, because several areas of it are deeply stained with dirt and other stains that are unidentifiable that obviously can't come out. Other than this, though, he seems to be fairly well put together. His nails appear manicured. His face is free of dirt or debris. His hair is well kept, and he's wearing a few unassuming pieces of jewelry. Other than this individual looks like a completely normal, typical human being. You're not seeing or sensing much, any of you guys. You're really not sensing much about them at all, and other than the noose and the coin, you're not really picking up on anything that points to anything other than a normal individual. He continues to speak, and as he does so, the large creature whirls around on its feet once it realizes that he's directly addressing it. As it does so, more globs of the acidic effluent kind of go spraying around, but luckily no one else is hit by them. This individual says very curtly, that will be quite enough.